guys, and welcome back to the Moaning Yorkshireman, and welcome to maybe a topic maybe more of a discussion as opposed to a rant, but I feel when I get on certain topics it is going to become a rant. So, as you've already seen by the title, and as I already mentioned in the cruel room of the Silverstone Grand Prix, news broke obviously that Nyck De Vries has lost his seat at Alpha Tauri and will be replaced by Daniel Ricciardo with immediate effect. And yeah, I've had a few days to think about it now, and obviously everyone's done the initial reaction for the clickbait and shit, but I have had a serious sit down and a thought about it and had a think about it and think why it could have happened, and basically I came to the same conclusion everyone else did in a split second, but I thought, do you know what, let's give it the benefit of the doubt and let's have a think. And the only thing I can think of is because Alpha Tauri and Helmut Marko especially is just a bit of an arse, isn't he? You know, I mean, let's put it this way. Has Nick had a fantastic season? Not really, no, he hasn't. He has been the only rookie this season that hasn't really shown anything at all. You know, Logan in his first race at Bahrain was really good in the Williams, and of course Oscar scored some points at Australia, scored some points at Monaco, and then he's had the fantastic finish as a result of McLaren's upgrades at Silverstone as well. So he has shown potential at times. You know, Logan started strong, dipped away, but he's now coming back again. Oscar has been sort of just doing the best he could with the car he had. I mean, that was worse than the Williams, wasn't it, to start the season off with? That's how bad that McLaren was. But it's been slowly edging away, and apart from Austria a couple of weekends ago, where he didn't have the updates that Lando did, and he was very much a back marker that race, apart from that one race for Oscar, he has been very, very consistent so far in a rookie year. And then we look at Nick, and he's been beaten by Yuki Tsunoda, that is, you know, wasn't on anyone's radar to do anything special this year. You know, I always said if Mick Schumacher didn't get another chance at another season, then neither should Yuki. You know, both had 2 seasons in the sport, and I didn't think if Mick didn't deserve a 3rd season, then Yuki certainly didn't. But this season, admittedly for Yuki, has been one of a step up. You know, that Alpha Tauri is a terrible car. We know it is. It's just absolute dog shit. It is the last car on the grid now, effectively, and Yuki has put some impressive performances in to get several P11 finishes just outside the points, and has picked up 2 P10s as well, which are crucial points finishes at the end of the day for a team that is really, really struggling. Nick, on the other hand, has struggled. I think his best result's been a 14th this season. His qualifyings haven't been anything spectacular. He has struggled, admittedly, but what can you expect from a rookie in his first season in Formula 1 in a car that is terrible? I think the whole perspective and premise of Nyck De Vries is that he'd kind of set his own stall a little bit too high, and I think that's what his downfall has been, because not only did he score points on debut for Williams last season, of course, at Monza, which was always going to be a circuit that did favour the Williams car, even back last year. You know, it was always going to be a car that would challenge for points, and Nick drove his absolute heart and soul out there and picked up a 9th place finish, which was absolutely stunning, running round in the points the entirety of the race in what was a backmarker car. And that clearly drew the attention of Red Bull and the Alpha Tauri team and everyone behind the scenes at Red Bull, of course. And, you know, Christian Horner said it was a bit too soon to sign Nick based on one race, but Helmut Marko was adamant he was having him. And no doubt Helmut promised him the world, because Nick had been offered a seat at Williams for next year based on that performance instead of Logan, and I think had we seen that, he'd have still been in the seat, and I think he'd have been doing a hell of a lot better than what he has now. But I think Helmut sold him a dummy and really sold him the world like he does to make sure he got his way and got him. Nick as well, though, has been his own downfall. You know, not just that one-off standout performance where you think, right, okay, a bit like a Van Dorn in 2016. You know, McLaren had scored no points at the start of that season. Alonso had to be replaced after his Australia accident. Van Dorn came in, scored P9. Pretty much the best we ever saw of him in Formula 1, that result. And here it was again, the same for Nick. And Nick also came into the championship saying that he wasn't a rookie. Despite the fact he was a rookie, he was claiming he wasn't a rookie, and everyone's saying 28's too old to be starting out a Formula 1 career, which is absolutely mental when you think about the legends back in the day that were starting their careers in the mid to late 20s, and that were just the starting out phase, because you did the junior categories for so long that when you jumped into Formula 1, you were at your finest. Whereas now they're jumping in at 17, 18, 19 year old. If you're anything 20 and above, you're considered old getting a debut start, you know. It's absolutely crazy, and I think for Nyck that always was going to go against him when 28 is considered old, you know. But yeah, the fact he came in saying I'm not a rookie, which is fair enough, Nyck. You know, you've had multiple seasons of dominating championships, doing incredibly well, but I think his biggest setback was the fact that he won the 2019 F2 season, but then he went into different formulas then, didn't he? He was put on a reserve driver role instead of getting a seat straight away, and he had too long away from an actual single-seater that we know, of course. Yes, he did Formula E, but everyone always says Formula E is a completely different kettle of fish to any other series ever. And I think everything he learned in Formula E and the other categories that he was in, he did ELMS, didn't he, for a little while, which is obviously a type of endurance racing, in mainly run LMP2 cars. He'd been in those series and he'd unlearned everything that was single-seaterish about his style of driving. He was, you know, I mean, battery recovery and management, and it's not something that translates directly into Formula One, and I think it was going to take him a season just to switch his mind back from Formula E, the endurance championships that he was in, back to his F2 style that got him so recognised and so well noticed. So I think his opportunity came too late. I'm glad he had his opportunity, but it is solely on Helmut Marko and the Red Bull squad for being so toxic as to why he's only lasted 10 races in this season. You know, it's disgusting to think that he's given a rookie 10 races. And the fact that we were early signs, as early as Miami this season, about Nyck De Vries' seat being under threat. Does that mean to me that all along they were never going to keep him? And they knew deep down that they always wanted to put Ricciardo in. They just needed an opportunity and an excuse to do that. And the fact that Nyck hasn't improved as the season's gone on in 10 races means that, yeah, let's get Ricciardo in. Because I think Ricciardo, if he beats Yuki, which, let's be honest, he should do, I think he could be potentially up for the running of the Red Bull seat if Perez doesn't get his act back together again. You know, he has had a difficult run of form as Perez, and I think Perez's difficult run of form, Ricciardo chomping at the bit to get back into racing, Nyck De Vries not doing ever so well, you know, being beaten by Yuki, who in a lot of people's eyes wasn't really a superstar going into this season, but I think he has done some solid drives and has really clicked with the championship now. It just seems a little bit unjust, doesn't it? But I think it was always in the mindset that Nyck wasn't going to do the season, certainly wasn't going to last the season in Helmut's mind. I think he's promised him the world, signed him up, said we really want you, X, Y, Z, just so he can make sure that another team doesn't get him and dump him at the earliest opportunity, like we've seen before. You know, we've seen it with Jean-Eric Vergne, of course, was promised the Red Bull seat by Helmut Marko in a conversation. The day after that conversation took place, they signed Vettel. We've seen the mistreatment of course, Danny Kvyat. Who can forget that whole debacle? I mean, that was an absolute farce, wasn't it? And that was a season where they binned off practically every single one of their Red Bull Junior program drivers and just dumped everyone at the end of that. It was a joke. You know, Danny Kvyat, you're in Red Bull, now you're not. No, you're in Toro Rosso, now you're not even in the seat in Formula 1. Oh, we just need you back for this one race, and he goes and scores a point at the US Grand Prix. No, we don't need you anymore, bugger off. Oh, actually, we've binned all those young drivers off, we've got no one for the Toro Rosso at all. Danny, can you come back? Oh, he scores podiums at the likes of Hockenheim in an Alpha Tauri that's not doing very well. He does some stunning drives, and then they just dump him again, and then have the cheek to tell him, no, you're never welcome back in Formula 1. And I think it's just so unjust. So, we've seen it before, we'll see it again with this programme. It is toxic, it's not worth the paper it's written on. If Helmut Marko promises you the world to any young driver, tell him to go fucking suck a fat one, and just tell him to get rid, because it is just a joke. Absolute joke, and I just feel so sorry for Nyck De Vries, you know. Yeah, it hasn't been a fantastic season, but the car has been terrible, and I don't think he was doing that bad in these last couple of races, to be honest with you. He was at the back of the grid, but so was Yuki. You know, Yuki wasn't even having these impeccable performances where he was scraping points or just outside the points. Yuki was nowhere just as much as Nyck De Vries was, so yeah, I always think, in my mind anyway, as mentioned, it was always in the mindset that Nyck was just merely just a let's get him in, let's make sure no other driver has him, make sure no other team gets a hold of him, we'll have him, and dump him at the earliest opportunity to get Ricciardo in the car. Checo's under-delivering, let's see if Ricciardo gets back into Red Bull again. That's what I think anyway. So yeah, a bit of a rambling video, I must be honest, but it just really has frustrated me to the point where I'm not even angry. You know, I am just extremely disappointed, and I'm very, very sorry for Nyck, because he has been a victim once again of the Red Bull programme, proving that it doesn't work and they don't give drivers enough time. You know, the mistreatment at Gasly as well, who can forget that? There was only really Alex Albon, to be fair, that did have some kind of nurturement and nourishment, and they were getting mind coaches in and driver trainers, and he was having all these fitness tests outside the circuit. He was getting all these people to, you know, work around him when he went to the Red Bull team. But I think knowing you're under pressure every single day of every single race of every single minute, and the slightest mistake, Helmut Marko's going to jump down your throat because your name's not Max Verstappen, that's the issue, isn't it? I don't care how much they think they're treating you nicely or how much they want you to believe that they're treating you nicely. Ultimately, they will just treat you like shit and dump you at the drop of a hat. And I know people are saying this is a cutthroat sport worth millions of dollars, and this is what happens if you're in a ruthless sport. That's it. You know, you need to accept your fate. And to a certain degree, yeah, absolutely. You know, these are the 20 best drivers supposedly in Formula One on the grid now. But at the end of the day, what happens to people's mental health? What happens to actually caring for people? And if you're going to drop Nyck after 10 races, you could at least do it a little bit more fairly than what you have done. I mean, to the point where the press releases on the social media was just all about Daniel Ricciardo back in Formula One, not even having the decency on the front headline to even tell you that you got rid of De Vries. You know, it's just all just so wrong. Everything that they've done and gone about is so wrong, and Nyck De Vries has been under pressure from day one to deliver. He hasn't delivered, and he's been under threat and under pressure. How can anyone thrive when they're getting berated, when the press is saying, oh, he's under threat, when Helmut's saying he's going to get 3 races or he's out? Like I said, earliest rumours were Miami this year, which is just a joke. In a rookie campaign, in a car that's at the back of the grid, and you already get told, be it via press or by the team directly, that from Miami onwards, there was already rumours that his seat was under threat. Not acceptable at all. So yeah, as mentioned, just a quick little ranty video there, but the mistreatment of Red Bull with their juniors proves that they really don't give a shit. You know, Gasly got binned off, Brendan Hartley got binned off, John-Eric Verne got binned off, Danica Kvyat got binned off, Nyck De Vries is now a victim of getting binned off, and what can you do? What can you do? I mean, Scott Speed got binned off, if we're going to go back down that far, but he was shite. So, you know, there's a bit of a difference there. Yeah, I just think the whole thing just proves once again that this Red Bull Junior Programme merry-go-round doesn't work. It only works if your name's Max Verstappen, or if you somehow become just as good as Max Verstappen. And if you can't quite do it, then there you go, you're out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Sorry it was a ranty video, but I just had to feel I could get everything out that I could. Just been a disappointing week, really. I like Nyck. I think he's always deserved this opportunity in Formula One, and it's a shame to see it go so drastically wrong so soon. And was it all his fault? I think 75% of it was Red Bull's. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon. And as always, much love.